What a silly little football club we are.
Way so tough with that bad boy tuck. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought.
Yes, friends, what's poppin'? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host, Jan. I hope you're doing well, really do hope that. Welcome back to Chelsea News, the daily series here on the channel where I reflect on what's being said about Chelsea, giving you my opinion on it, but as always, more importantly, asking for yours. Chelsea and Romeo Lavia have announced he's out for the season. Bro played like 32 minutes. Yeah, we'll get into that. Chelsea women remain good, which is nice. And also, we've got an absolute gem superstar of a striker that nobody's talking about. Well, some people are now talking about. Donnell McNeely, the Athletic wrote about him. We'll have a look at his stats and talk about this absolute gunman. Strap yourselves in, friends. Thanks for joining me. If you want to support the content, it's super simple. All you gotta do is tap that like button. Subscribe only if you want to. Hit the bell if you choose to. And as always, I can't wait to read your comments because the discussion here on Football Therapy is pretty darn good. I am recording before Mauricio Pochettino's pre-match press conference for the game this weekend, so if he drops some major bomb like he's leaving Chelsea or we've got Mbappe lined up to sign in the summer, I'm sorry, but then again, if he says that, I'll just make another video. But just for context, I will preview the game, by the way, tomorrow, in tomorrow's video for the weekend. So don't worry, we're going to get into all of it here today on Football Therapy. So yeah, let's get into it. Starting off, shout out to the Chelsea women's team who eliminated Ajax from the Women's Champions League yesterday. A 1-1 draw on the night, but the work had already been done as far as I'm concerned. Our new striker looks pretty ruddy good, don't she? Anyway, we've got an incredible record. Let's try and win it this time before Emma Hayes leaves Chelsea. I do worry for the women's team and what lies beyond in the post-Emma Hayes era, but hopefully we can keep going and being the dominant team in certainly English football. I mean, we're making exciting new signings. We've got Lauren James, who's probably the best footballer in the WSL for my money. Things hopefully will remain good. But yeah, shout out to them, salute. Very, very good indeed. I can't wait to watch them in the next round. Good news, let's move over to some bad news. So Chelsea announced this following statement regarding Romeo Lavia. Midfielder Romeo Lavia is unfortunately to miss the end of our campaign following a setback in his recovery. Recent medical assessments have confirmed that Lavia, who sustained a significant thigh injury against Crystal Palace back in December, will not feature again this season. Lavia himself came out with a statement on his social media that said this: "Hi Chelsea family, as you may know, and despite my countless efforts, I will be missing the remainder of the season. This has been a frustrating season for me, not being able to help my teammates. I love this squad, this badge, and being on the pitch more than anything. Trust that I have given my all every day to give back. Thank you for the love, support, and critics because they affect me positively and keep me going. Can't wait to give it back and share many special moments together. See you soon." Well, one thing he's got on his side is he's still really young. Is he 20? I mean, Romeo Lavia has been one of those footballers for me that's just been 19 for about 4 years. He might be 20 now. Look, man, there's so much to unpack from this. There really is. Like, firstly, gotta feel bad for the kid, right? He had a big move destined. He was gonna go to Liverpool, and then he turned his back on Liverpool when they weren't willing to give the big money for him. He decided, like Caicedo, to join Chelsea. Both had bids from Liverpool to join, and then both made the decision to join Chelsea and communicated that with Liverpool. Now, Liverpool won't really care, like Klopp's in a title race and can win a European trophy and won the cup against us, so he won't really care about that now. Though I have a feeling if you said to Klopp, for your final season you could have had Moises Caicedo in your setup, I think he still would have taken it. Remember, they did have a £111 million bid accepted from Brighton to sign Caicedo, so they did want him, and you can imagine Caicedo in a more settled club, team, coaching environment would have performed better. Not that he's been awful, he's actually quietly been okay, Caicedo, I think, but not great. And he can be truly great. But we're not talking about Caicedo at the moment. I just use it as an example because Lavia was another player that could have gone to Liverpool, decided to come to Chelsea in the end. Chelsea paid £58 million for him, or at least a fee that rises to £58 million. A 60 million quid midfielder who, by the way, throughout the season, we really could have done with, because both Caicedo and Fernandes are South Americans that always go off to international break, different time zones, long travel, they get back late, and then, we're in trouble. Romeo Lavia is Belgian. He would have gone like a couple of hours flight, there'll be no jet lag, come back, good to go. And lest we forget, he's a completely different profile of midfielder than both Caicedo, Enzo, and actually Gallagher as well. He's more of a little bit of turn in tight spaces, or, CDM kind of spaces, and do a little bit of the Mateo Kovacic, dribbling, ball carrying, really, really exciting stuff. And if we are to back Joe Shields in his acquisitions so far, Cole Palmer, massive, massive hit. He was adamant we get Romeo Lavia as well. So, he's a young player, he's got time on his side despite a whole season being wasted. I believe he was injured in training when we first signed him, which is an absolute joke, and then we ruined his whole first season. It is a joke. Now look, I'm aware Chelsea are doing a whole overhaul of their medical department. Matt Law just spoke on the London is Blue podcast saying there's someone else that he can't talk about that Chelsea are working with, that is, he's tasked with actually rebuilding the entirety of Chelsea's medical department. So there is an awareness there. They are trying to do a rebuild, and by all accounts, said rebuild isn't complete yet. So it's hard to, we'll judge it once it's fully built and implemented. But this season, in terms of injuries, I know loads of clubs have had a high amount of injuries, but Chelsea's been ridiculous. Plus also, we used to be so good with dealing with injuries that we are the antithesis of that at the moment. And it's got to change. So fingers crossed we get better with that. Like I said though, Romeo Lavia is a very young player. He's got time on his side. But he's a player we should be utilising. Squawkers tweeted this: Romeo Lavia played more minutes than any other under-20 player during the last campaign in the Premier League. He played 2,331 minutes, and the second place player was Harvey Elliott with 600, more than 600 minutes less. So Romeo Lavia has gone from that to playing 32 minutes this season. I mean, you could say maybe he was overcooked quite young, but look, man, he would have been, 18, 19? The players can play a lot of football when they're young if they're managed well. And look, this was a mismanaged injury. I don't think this is a fitness thing. We brought him back. He aggravated a thigh injury, and he's out for the season. I don't want to spend too long speaking on Romeo Lavia, but it sucks, man. He could have really helped us this season, I think. Some people think, especially from his camp, certain footballing analysts and tacticians believe that Romeo Lavia could actually transform the way Chelsea play football. I don't know what, if you drop Caicedo or Fernandes, or you play a midfield three of all of them, you drop Gallagher. A lot of people are talking about dropping Gallagher and playing Mudryk in the 10 anyway, because Mudryk's played better, centrally. Regardless, it's nice to have freaking options, isn't it? So you can bring one of these really good players off the bench and they can affect the game with their immense ability that you paid tens and tens of millions of pounds for. Anyway, look, we've had horrors this season. Ugachukwu sort of disappeared off the face of the earth. Lavia never existed. And yeah, Nkunku, I tell you what, I know Nkunku scored a couple of goals and we've seen a tiny bit of him, but Nkunku's nearly as bad as Romeo Lavia. It feels like the invisible man as well. So hopefully come next season, all these players will be available, and it would just be a whole different scenario. I mean, with Nkunku, we should see him back towards the end of the season. As with Reece James, there could be happier times ahead at the end of this season. Let me know what you think though. Comment down below on the medical department, the Romeo Lavia situation. I'll be very keen to learn your thoughts on that. And let's move on and talk about something positive and exciting and moving to the future. And that, of course, is young 18-year-old striker Donnell McNeely. So Simon Johnson of The Athletic wrote about him as Chelsea's top goal scorer in the club at the moment, and I wanted to reference him a little bit as well. Of course, I've spoken about Ronnie Stutter before, who who's also an informed young striker at Chelsea. And we've got loads of actually good young strikers at Chelsea at the moment, if you think about it. And this is a lot to count as well. So we've got Nico Jackson, who's the first choice centre forward at Chelsea as things stand. But of course, he's a recently converted winger, and Chelsea are probably going to look to buy a top senior striker that's always been a centre forward that can, be the appropriate profile for our attack. And then Nico Jackson would be a very good deputy. So we've got Nico Jackson. We've got Armando Broja on the books, who we have to assume at this point will be sold. We've got David Datro Fofana, who's having a good loan spell at Burnley, but again, you'd have to assume eventually he'll be sold, hopefully make the club profit, but it's probably destined for another loan next season. We've just signed Dujan Richards Whisper, the Jamaican striker, who's supposed to be very, very highly rated as well. We've got David Washington, which is a recently purchased Brazilian striker who's already made his debut for the first team. I've spoken about, obviously, Ronnie Stutter, who's very, very exciting. Why have I ignored this fun? And and now you've got Donnell as well. So, Seven strikers at Chelsea with high-profile youth players. I wanted to talk about Donnell because there is a piece on him at The Athletic, and his numbers are pretty darn crazy as well. And this is not a 16-year-old, 17-year-old. This is an 18-year-old. This is, he's old enough to be given a crack in the Chelsea first team, especially when you see, global sensations like ENDRICK scoring, 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds playing for Barcelona. Of course, our very own Kendry Paez, 16 years old superstar. He's still 16. He's been in the news recently, of course, for being in a nightclub. I'm not really going to bother covering that because I was a 16-year-old too recently, and it's not like apparently he wasn't drinking or anything. He was brought along there. So it's a bit of a nothing story for me. But the point being, young players all over the gaff, really young, being played in men's football. So 18 feels like you should be given a chance off the bench. But yeah, don't take my word for it. Check out these numbers. So as you can see from profile, he is a centre forward. In the PL2 this season, he's had 13 appearances, 15 goals and 5 assists, 20 league goal involvements in 13 appearances. Incredible scenes there. Now come the summer, he'll only have 1 year left on his contract, but you'd be pretty certain Chelsea would look to extend that. Like I said, he's not a fetus. He turns 19 in October, so I think Pochettino should be considering him to be a bench player at least. Check out him in all competitions here. So yes, 13 matches in the league, 15 goals, 5 assists. So that's in the U18 Premier League. In the Premier League 2, he's still got 4 goals and 7 appearances. And he's got a couple of goals in the Youth Cup as well. Now, Donnell is the top scorer at Chelsea Football Club across all competitions. And of course, this is something that Simon Johnson highlighted in his piece. Of course, in the women's team, we've got Lauren James tearing it up. We've got Cole Palmer, who's got the highest productivity in the Chelsea men's team. And granted, they're playing at senior higher level, but still, this guy is absolutely obliterating goals all over the gaff. And that should be considered, especially when we, put David Washington down there, other players, you see Whisper playing there, and this guy, looks like he can absolutely cut it. I would like to see him included in some senior squads before the end of the season, maybe brought off the bench, maybe just train with the first team, I think he already has actually trained with the first team. There's like a picture shared by, I think, Chelsea Youth of him absolutely roasting Axel Disasi. Which I don't know what that tells you, but clearly he's a massive talent and very, very exciting. And look, this is it's so tough to get excited about, things in the future, especially in football. Football is a now game. What's your team doing? Where's your team in the league? How many goals has your player scored this season? It's all very now, isn't it? And it's very hard to get excited and one up your mates and that supporters of other teams going, well, in a few years, we should have an excellent team. Especially when they can just say, nah, mate, you're 11th in the Premier League, you can't talk. Because that's largely true. But there is a thought process here that Chelsea's youth talent is just incredible. Not just the stuff that we've brought in not just the players that we've brought in that cost ridiculous amounts of money, but indeed, the youth that we've got. I mean, I do fear that the Chelsea owners, the sporting directors, will look at Donnell and go, rub their hands together, stick him on a 7-year contract now, and sell him for pure profit when we're in financial trouble down the road. I mean, anything can happen. Would that surprise you? But at the same time as well, you have to ask the question, like, if we're going to buy this senior high-profile striker, whether it be an Osimhen or if we deem that worth it towards the end for the money, because it does sound like Chelsea are going to try and put a bid in before actually activating the release clause. What about these thousands of strikers underneath whoever this first choice is? I'm going to maintain, I think Nico Jackson is just an excellent number 2 that would challenge the number 1, and if the number 1 gets injured, you play him. Like, better than recent times when I've been making content and like really being nerdy with Chelsea. Like the proper second strikers have been like, firstly Michy Batshuayi, and then like Loic Remy as well, I'd say. We had other strikers, but they were the ones that were actually playing a lot. And I think Jackson would be better than both of them in terms of quality, play style, and versatility as well. I think that would be really, really good. So he'd be a great second striker, especially for the money as well. And if first choice gets injured, you bring in Nico Jackson, you're feeling good. I'm not going to necessarily think it's going to be as close as Reece James and Malo Gusto, but who knows? It might be with Jackson's development. But all these strikers underneath, like I said, Whisper, Datro Fofana, Breuer, Stutter, this kid Donnell, like there's so many. There's probably more that I've missed out that we'll be thinking, I'm good enough, I'm a bagsman, I'm a gunman, I score loads of goals. Look at me, coach, you at Chelsea can't score goals. Get me in the box, I will slam dunk some goals for you. Still, it's better to have too many strikers than not enough. So let me know what you think. I'll be very keen to see what you guys think in the comment section. Do chat amongst yourselves down there. I'll be nosing around, and I thank you for joining me today here on Football Therapy. If you want to support the content, super simple, like and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys back here very soon. Peace.